Have you ever come across a video of an old Hollywood star smoking with reckless abandon and wondered how they made smoking seem so cool? Well, let's just say the side effects that came with this seemingly cool habit sent a lot of Hollywood stars to an early grave. Here are some of the worst chain smokers in the history of Hollywood. George Formby. Some say that George Formby knew that smoking would eventually lead to his untimely death. He often referred to his smoking habit as his coffin nails, and it was only a matter of time before this habit took him to the grave. George Formby was a remarkable figure in the British entertainment industry. Born in 1904 in Wigan, Lancashire, he first made a name for himself as a talented jockey. In fact, George became Britain's youngest professional jockey. However, fate had other plans for George. He soon transitioned from the racetrack to the stage and screen, and by the 1930s and 1940s George Formby had become the highest-paid entertainer in the UK, known for his cheeky charm, comic timing, and, of course, his mastery of the ukulele. His catchy songs, like When I'm Cleaning Windows and Leaning on a Lamppost, made him a beloved figure across the nation. Behind the scenes, though, George was fighting a tough battle with cigarette addiction. He was known to smoke an astonishing 40 Capstan full strength and Woodbine cigarettes a day. These brands were notorious for their high tar and nicotine content, and it wasn't long before his health began to deteriorate. Smoking at the level George did is incredibly taxing on the lungs and heart, leading to chronic respiratory issues and heart disease. George began to suffer from respiratory problems, which impacted his ability to perform and enjoy life as he once did. Despite the signs of his declining health, George continued to work and entertain his fans. His determination and love for his craft were evident, but his body could only withstand so much. By the late 1950s, his health had significantly deteriorated. George experienced frequent bouts of breathlessness and fatigue, classic symptoms of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a direct consequence of his heavy smoking. In 1960, George's health took a severe downturn. He suffered a heart attack, which was a clear indicator of the damage smoking had done to his cardiovascular system. Still, George pushed on, but another heart attack followed in 1961. This second attack was much more severe, leaving him weakened and unable to continue his career with the same vigor. The damage to his heart and lungs was extensive and irreversible. Sadly, George Formby died of a heart attack on March 6, 1961, at the age of just 56. Walt Disney. For someone who spent most of his years creating shows and films that entertained children all over the world, smoking was not exactly on brand for him, but he did it anyway. Although this producer was highly talented, it was said that he battled internal struggles and turned to smoking as an escape. Despite his efforts to keep this habit hidden due to his role in children's entertainment, Disney was a heavy smoker, often seen with a cigarette in pictures. His smoking was even digitally erased from photographs and attractions at Disneyland to maintain his family-friendly image. By the early 1960s, his health had deteriorated due to his smoking. In November 1966, Disney was diagnosed with lung cancer and underwent cobalt therapy and surgery to remove a lung. Unfortunately, his health continued to worsen, leading to his death at the age of 65 from circulatory collapse caused by cancer. Bette Davis. Often seen with a cigarette in her hand, Bette Davis was unapologetic about her smoking habit. She couldn't do without her signature Vanguards and smoked at least 4 packs per day. Bette Davis co-star Henry Fonda once quipped, "I've been close to Bette Davis for 38 years and I have the cigarette burns to prove it." This addiction was as much a part of her identity as her piercing eyes and commanding voice. From the moment she burst onto the Hollywood scene in the 1930s, Davis's cigarettes were never far from reach. On film sets, she would light up between takes. This was an era when smoking was glamorized, and Davis's image, with a cigarette elegantly poised between her fingers, became iconic. Her smoking was not limited to the confines of her work. Davis smoked on television shows, during interviews, and even in places where it was generally frowned upon, such as the dentist's office. However, this unyielding attachment to smoking came at a significant cost. Over the years, the toll on her health became increasingly evident. In 1983, she was diagnosed with breast cancer and underwent a mastectomy. Despite this, her smoking continued unabated. A year later, she suffered a series of strokes, which left her partially paralyzed and with slurred speech. Davis's resilience in the face of these health challenges was remarkable, but the damage from decades of heavy smoking was irreversible. Her physical decline continued. Betty Davis passed away on October 6, 1989, at the age of 81 from breast cancer that had metastasized. David Jansen. What was supposed to be a relaxing day in his home in Malibu, California, turned into his last day when a sudden heart attack claimed his life. Surely you remember David Jansen, the talented TV star we all remember as Dr. Richard Kimball from The Fugitive. He was also Richard Diamond, the private detective in O'Hara, U.S. Treasury. Despite his amazing performances, David had a pretty tough battle with smoking. David was a serious chain smoker, going through up to 4 packs a day. It was common to see him with a cigarette in hand, both on and off the screen. This smoking habit sort of added to his rugged, tough guy image, which fit many of the roles he played perfectly. But as you can imagine, all that smoking started taking a toll on his health. His once strong and clear voice turned raspy, and he began to have respiratory problems. These health issues sometimes affected his work, causing delays and impacting his performance. Tragically, David's life was cut short at just 48 years old when he suffered a sudden heart attack at his home in Malibu, California. It was a heartbreaking end to a brilliant career and life. Julie London. Most people knew Julie London as a talented actress and singer, but not many knew that she began smoking when she was just a teenager. Julie started smoking at the age of 16. Back then, smoking was seen as glamorous, and it quickly became a part of her everyday routine. It was said that she always had a cigarette in her hand, and at her peak, Julie smoked up to 3 packs a day. It became more than just a habit, it was an addiction. At first, it seemed like smoking was almost beneficial for her career. Her raspy, smoky voice helped her land roles and made her singing stand out. But as the years went by, the constant smoking started to take a toll. Her voice, which had been her moneymaker, began to suffer. The damage from smoking made it harder for her to perform at the same level she once did. As her voice deteriorated, so did her opportunities in both singing and acting. Her career began to decline. She got cast less frequently and eventually stopped performing on stage altogether. Then, in 1995, Julie suffered a stroke. Despite the medical attention she received, her health continued to deteriorate. Sadly, this was only the beginning of her health challenges. By 1999, she was diagnosed with lung cancer, a devastating diagnosis linked to her lifelong smoking habit. Despite her efforts to recover and get back on her feet, her health continued to decline. In October 2000, Julie began facing difficulties with breathing. It got so bad that she had to be admitted to the hospital, but unfortunately, she didn't make it out alive. Her body had endured so much, and on October 18, 2000, she passed away at the age of 74. Tallulah Bankhead. The renowned actress known for her husky voice and flamboyant personality was infamously addicted to smoking. Throughout her life, she smoked an astonishing number of cigarettes, reportedly going through up to 120 cigarettes a day, equivalent to 6 packs. Her smoking habit became her signature, an inseparable part of her public persona. She smoked everywhere on stage, during interviews, in social settings, showing a complete disregard for the norms and health warnings of her time. This relentless addiction took a severe toll on her health. Year after year, the cumulative effects of heavy smoking began to manifest. Bankhead's voice, already distinctive, grew even more raspy and strained, a direct consequence of her incessant smoking. Chronic respiratory issues plagued her, leading to persistent coughing and frequent bouts of bronchitis. As she aged, her physical appearance changed. Her skin became sallow, and she appeared much older than her years. Despite these obvious signs of health deterioration, Bankhead's commitment to her habit never wavered. Her addiction contributed to more severe health problems in her later years, including emphysema and pneumonia, conditions that severely compromised her quality of life. Ultimately, the years of addiction led to her death from pneumonia in 1968. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button and suggest the topic you would like us to discuss in the next video.